but I really liked how Luke Getzey used Bowers, just moving him all over the field. And me and Tashan wrote an article about 12 personnel this week. And this could be a team that the rare team that actually majors in 12 personnel, even teams that use a lot of 12 personnel at the end of the year, 11 personnel, three receivers is going to be what they major in a little bit more than other personnel groupings. But this team might actually be a team that uses 12 personnel at 49 to like 50, maybe over 50%, because Bowers isn't a traditional tight end. He's a guy that you can move around. He was at outside receiver, he was at slot, he was at tight end. They even moved him to fullback. So a lot of interesting usage for Bowers in this game. What do you guys think about Bowers and his first performance in this Vikings game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we all knew they were going to live out of 12 this year. I mean, especially ahead of the game. I mean, they released their depth chart in 12 personnel, which you don't really see in the modern day NFL anymore. But it makes sense. I mean, you don't spend, the 13th overall pick on a guy if you don't plan to start him, and they still, thought highly of Michael Mayer, who they drafted in the second round last year, and so as expected. I mean, they came out, and I think that pretty much that whole first drive, they used 12 personnel with those two guys on the field. And I thought Bowers he only had a couple catches, but he looked the part. I mean, you saw some of that explosiveness and the movement skills that he has. As you said, they're able to move him all across the field and take advantage of some matchups. And they only ran the ball a few times when they were both out there. I think Zamir White got 3 carries, but they averaged around 4.3 yards per carry. So it was a solid efficiency in the run game. And so that's a really small sample size, of course, but they showed what they could do from a blocking perspective. I think one of the plays that stood out, from the story that we did, Jacoby Myers, one of those big catches he had early. Both of those guys were staying in to block, on that play, and sort of still were able to act as decoys to free up other players. And so it's not just obviously they want both, Bowers and Mayer to have big receiving seasons, but they could also create a lot of opportunities for other guys as well and make it more difficult to send, double teams and safety help towards Devontae Adams every single play like we've seen really the last couple of years. And so I thought it was a nice, first impression for Bowers, but also just Getsy and seeing how he plans to use these two guys on offense.
Yeah, I think it's ironic how the Raiders dumped the Patriots way, and then they go with the two tight end system. That was so. But yeah, both guys were playing with a lot of confidence. Both
And he also
Bowers.
drafted Lave too.
Yeah, there you go. And there. So I give out my hot gambling tip on Twitter the other day about Brock Bowers, 50-1 to win Rookie of the Year. I think the only reason why I like it. I think it's good odds for guys to be a huge part of the offense. The only reason why I don't love it as much as I would like to is because I think Michael Mayer going to have also some pretty big numbers also. So I think he'll take away from what Bowers can do. But again, he's a guy who I think would just scratching the surface. You see it every day. He gets better and better. And again, the confidence is there. A guy knows he can make plays at this level coming into the league. So I think very exciting thing for Raider fans to kind of to watch this season.
So writing this article, we did a little bit of research. Only four tight end duos in the history of the NFL had both tight ends surpass 600 yards. And the first one ever was in 1979. It was actually the Raiders, David Casper, and was it Raymond Chester? I forget the second tight
Yeah,
end's
yeah,
name.
believe
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
So does this become the fifth duo to have 600 yards each?
Yeah, maybe at some point they better be, for this to be worth it. This year we'll see. I mean, I could see, one of them maybe having like 500 or some type of
They also
modest
have
season.
17 games, too.
Yeah, you have 17 games, but they have a lot of, like we talked about. I mean, you have, Devontae Adams, you have Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, stepping up this year. And I just think, while they're going to live out of 12, I do think this will be a run first team. With Luke Getzey, that's kind of how he's always been as offensive coordinator. And with the quarterback situation that they have, I don't know if they're going to be throwing it 40 times a game. You know what I mean? So, you need a certain volume. Maybe every time they touch the ball, they just go for huge gains, and that's how they get to 600. But I think it'll be close this year. If they do end up becoming the next duo, I think it'll be, by the skin of their teeth a little bit.
Yeah, it's a big number. I think 600 each with Devontae Adams on the field is, for me, a little hard to imagine, but it's possible. And again, maybe, I mean, we don't want to say if something happens with Devontae in terms of in November, maybe there's more openings in the offense. But
Come on, man! You're starting off
no,
negative.
I say like no, I say
Come on, man.
I'm saying who knows, I don't know. But yeah, obviously the potential is there, like Sean said, for the future and next year. I definitely they can get that. But this year, I think maybe it's more of a work in progress.
Yeah, and the big thing is they have to be able to run the ball because if you don't run the ball and you don't have success rushing the ball, teams are just going to treat your 12 personnel like it's Bowers is a big slot receiver and they're going to go nickel and you lose your advantage in a pass game that way. So the offensive line does come into play here. Can they run block? And if they are able to, you have so many advantages. I mean, those other tight end duos, they didn't have a receiver like Devontae Adams outflanking them, and when teams have to respect their 12 personnel, it makes the defensive looks a lot simpler. You're going to line up in a bunch of heavy fronts with base personnel, and then you take away a lot of the exotic coverages that teams have used against Devontae Adams to try to take him out of the game. So if you're able to run the ball, have teams respect you, it just creates all sorts of advantages for the offense uh, to take advantage of.
Yeah,
But any
I think we
other
saw
thoughts
that.
from the Vikings game?
I was gonna say on that note, I think we saw that you broke that play down, and later in that first drive against the Vikings, where he had Bowers line up as a fullback, and he was out in the flats. I think he
Hmm.
was matched up with a defensive end, and
Yep.
there's not too many defensive ends that are going to stick with
Big
him in
defensive end
coverage.
too.
Yeah, yeah. So as much as they can take advantage of that kind of stuff and create advantages, helped the overall offense. But